Well, in their innocence, very young children know themselves to be light and love. If we allow them, they can teach us to see ourselves the same way. Those are some of the famous words that was said by icon Michael Jackson. Welcome to the last segment of our show. My name is Priva Elibaz. This is obvious. You can connect with us on our social media platforms. That is Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at CTV Uganda. You know, let us know what you think, because today we're going to be talking about childhood innocence. And joining me in studio today are the beautiful ladies Agi Uwase and Shivan Auma. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good.
Guys, I need energy because today we're going to talk a very interesting conversation. We're talking about children and their innocence. Now, in case you're wondering who qualifies to be a child is basically defined as any person under the age of 18 years. Now, this varies, from state to state, but for us here in Uganda, a child is a person who is under the age of 18. And basically, this is in accordance with the United Nations Convention on the Rights of a Child. It's also in accordance with Article 2 of the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child, as well as Article 257, 1C of the 1995 Constitution of Uganda as amended. But when we look at innocence, in general, innocence is a lack of guilt with respect to any kind of crime or wrongdoing. But when we take it to the legal aspect, of course, the legal context, innocence is the lack of legal guilt of an individual with respect to a crime. But other contexts, we normally refer to innocence as basically having a lack of experience. Now, speaking about children, I mean, children, they are light and love. We all love children. They all make us laugh. They all make us, happy. They'll jump into, how would I call it? They'll strike a dance if their favorite song comes on TV. They'll, show love to a stranger. They'll smile at a stranger if they need to. And this is basically how they live their life. But how did we change? How did we get here as human beings? I mean, like, if you went to, let me say maybe like Owino Market, there's no way you're going to, start dancing out of nowhere because you had your favorite song, unless you want to be labeled a mad person or a mad woman. So today we're going to be looking at childhood innocence. And the very first question I want to ask the ladies is, what most do you miss about your childhood?
Well, for me, the most I really miss about my childhood is not having to pay bills.
Oh, yeah.
100%. They always talk about adulting is a scam. Mm-hmm. Is that the word?
Yeah.
Yeah, so being little, I mean, my parents were taking care of me. I mean, you have no cares or worries in the world. You have tuition to go to school. You have everything there. Mommy, I want food. Mommy, I want this. Mommy, I want that. I mean, you have no care in the world about paying any bills. So yes, growing up, besides the bills, it's so many other hurdles. Now you have to learn how to your interpersonal relations with people. Back in the day, I mean, you had no problems at all. So yes, growing up, you have so many things that you deal with, from emotions. You also have to deal with your ignorance as well, because when you're little, you're naive.
Yes,
you don't know so much about some things. You have no perception of things, but you have to keep enlightening yourself as you grow older. That takes a lot of effort. That takes a lot of, energy and intention and commitment as well. So yes, adulting is a scam. I wish I could, go back in time. I'd want to be little again.
Yes, Shivan.
Memories. One, I miss moving around naked. Like, it's crazy. Yes, like, why do we have to wear clothes? So anyway, but I miss moving around naked. That's one. Mm-hmm. Two, dancing in the rain. Okay, I still do that up to now. By the way, every single time it rains and I'm at home, I'm like, you know what? I am an adult, but I was once a child, and there's a child still in me, so we are heading out to this rain and we are going to play in the rain. But I would say when it comes to the memory, that something that I would really miss is just not having to be on your guard all the time. Like, as a child, when someone gives you a sweet or even hugs you, don't second guess it. You're like, oh, thank you. Okay, some children will refuse because their mothers have told them, do not accept anything else unless it is mommy or daddy that has given you. Or they say, no one should touch you here and here and here. Like, just being that innocent and like not questioning every single move someone else is doing, or not questioning why someone is overly good. I think the world would be a much better place if we're all as innocent as children.
Well, I totally agree, and I think me having a little boy even makes it like more interesting. Like, Kai does the most random things.
A younger version of you.
Yeah, and they make me happy. Like, I smile, but if an older person did that, I'd be like, what are you doing? Yes, you understand? But I think what I miss about my child is basically not having to fret about the past, the future, the present. You're constantly worried about how to handle the bills, how to handle your interpersonal relationships, just like, Aggie mentioned. Like, it's so much that goes into adulting, and you have to be cautious because, we are young. We are not told these things. I mean, it's you growing up and understanding, oh, there's bad things like death, there's bad things like jealousy, there's bad things like this and that. So the very question, the other question that I want to ask you girls is that, at what point does a person leave their childhood behind? Because we are all innocent, we all know no evil, but at what point do you think, or even you, giving your own experience, because I feel like losing your innocence is just not a one-time thing, like it happens gradually. So at what point do you think kids leave their childhood behind and people generally lose their innocence?
I would say at the point when I personally lost my innocence when my aunt, I have an auntie, you'll always have that auntie who is always advising you. So when my favorite auntie started telling me things such as, you cannot hug Uncle so-and-so facing each other, like give him a side hug, I'm like, you see how human beings are already tainting our innocence?
Yes.
So for me, I'm like, okay, what's wrong with that? Of course, my curious mind immediately went to Google and all these things. I'm wondering what is wrong with giving my uncle a hug when my bust is facing him. But my auntie said, no, that is wrong. So I would say I lost my innocence when I started being reprimanded of how I relate with the opposite sex, how I dress up, like girls, you cannot sit a certain type of way, but a boy is allowed to sit a certain type of way. And I'm wondering, but we are both wearing jeans. I mean, if he's opening his legs, I might as well put my legs on the chair. It is my home.
Yeah.
But again, then you say, but you see, you're tempting your brothers and sisters. And I'm like, you're tainting my childhood innocence.
Absolutely. Yes, Adi, let us know.
I think that happens as, reality keeps checking in. Some people were not lucky enough to actually have parents or guardians as their guiding light. They had to find out some of these things in their circles. You find their kids who are older, who know quite a number of things about sex, about, relations, about literally everything. So you find they keep on telling you things and you keep discovering like, oh my God, oh my goodness. So on the side of because I don't want to say lose it, because most of the articles are talking when you're losing your innocence, it's more of when you rediscover your sexuality and you're more aware of it. Yes. So I remember growing up, after some time we had to get separate bedrooms. Girls different bedroom, boys different bedroom, because you want to shower and when you're done showering, your brothers don't have to see you. And then all these things surrounding, and then the sex education, sex talk, of course, as we grew older, parents sitting us down to tell us about menstrual periods. Is that menstrual periods? Yeah, menstrual cycle. That one, yes. And also telling us how to be extra cautious. As a woman, as a young woman, you shouldn't be, moving in the wee hours of the night. What are you looking for? We got to the realization of actually rape is a thing, sexual assault is a thing. So yes, as time went on, discovering and rediscovering certain things. So yeah, you keep on losing your innocence.
Yes. Well, for me, I think the very first time that I lost my innocence, like I felt like, okay, this is not what I think it is, was when it was an unfortunate incident. Yes, a gentleman who was in the army killed the wife, like murdered the wife. It was like a murder-suicide kind of thing. And they had about 3 kids, young kids, almost like our age back in the day, because I remember this was like 2005. And at that moment, I realized like there's so much to the world. Because remember, back in the day, there was no social media of like, you're putting it on Facebook and everyone is chiming in. This was like door-to-door kind of news, yes? People are just coming and giving you the news. People are coming and giving your parents the news. I mean, they were old enough to take on that kind of information, just not the kids. So for me, I feel like that was the very first time I realized like, okay, the world is not as we think it is. But still speaking about hard conversations, we've been cast into the COVID-19 pandemic, yes? Like we dealt with it. It was a global pandemic and parents had to sit down and talk to their kids and let them know that, you know what, COVID-19 is a very terrible thing. It's a deadly disease. You have to protect yourself like this. People are dying. I mean, kids were seeing these things on TV. Yeah. And it leaves me with a question like, as parents or as adults, how do we have these tough conversations with our children without necessarily compromising their innocence? Another example that I would give you is like, like in the US, how it's predominantly weird for Black Americans to, live an easy life. They're always like on, how would I call
Ghettos
it? Yes, like they're always thinking someone is coming after me. If it's not the police, it's another one who's maybe probably doing a hate crime, or it's even like your fellow Black person taking you down. Yeah. So how do you have those conversations with your 10-year-old boy and helping them understand that the society you're in may not necessarily be what you think it is?
You know, quite interestingly, you've asked a very valid question, but I would also say parents are largely to blame for as to why children cannot flourish or thrive when they have finally left their homes. Yes, I understand. You said you're a mom. As a mom, I'm thinking you do not want anyone to maybe inflict pain on your child in any way or the other. So by trying to protect him or by trying to protect her, you're not actually telling them what is in the world. So how to have these conversations is by calling a spade a spade. I remember we had a conversation on our views and we asked the question of, would you fight in front of your children as a couple? Would you have arguments in front of your children? Absolutely. However, the thing is, have healthy arguments. Let children know that mommy and daddy can actually disagree on something, but later come back.
Yes.
But we want to show our children that, oh, everything is beautiful. And whoever produced the High School movie, High School Musical, really tainted my image of childhood, honestly. Like, I honestly believe that parents should just learn to tell children things the way they are, according to the age group, but also as a parent, you know your child. You know how much information they can take in, and you know how much information they cannot take in. Also, don't overwhelm your child with information, and the next thing they look at someone they want to hide. They cannot relate with anyone because you've told them. I remember when I was growing up, my auntie used to tell me, men are dangerous, stay away from them, man. I grew up fearing men. I'm like, these human beings are toxic.
Are they okay? Yes, again.
For me, I would.
Kids well?
I think I really agree with what Shivan is saying, because, you know, the more you try to run away from these hard conversations, the more you keep your children in a bubble and naive. So I'll just give you a very brief example. For some children who are not able to get, you know, the sex talk as early as primary 7, that's where you find someone is getting pregnant because they did not know how to go about it, how, you know, to manage their relations with the opposite sex without engaging in sex. So if they were lured into it or coerced into it by other people, so they would easily do it. So I would think, let's have the hard conversations with our children, but let's also be very conscious on how to relay the information out there so that we don't overwhelm them. And also, we are living in an era where children are very inquisitive and curious. They will have all these pressing questions they want to ask you as a parent. A child as young as 4 years will say, Mommy, how do babies come into this world? There, you're still trying to rub things, you know, not really to give them the right, correct information so that they don't try it. But when children go, like when they're about, like primary 6 or primary 7, they should be able to know these things and know that you only do this when the right time comes, when you're like married or something. Oh my goodness. You thought you don't do any.
Something Aggie has mentioned that is interesting. While we were growing up, we were always told that children, Mommy and Daddy, how are we going to get a baby brother? I'm going to pick them from the supermarket. No.
Can you imagine?
Who is giving you money out of the tooth that has fallen out into the tooth fairy? Guys, there is no tooth fairy.
Yes, there's a time when I asked my mother if they just, you know, poop kids out, and that's how they I was that curious kind of kid. But I also agree with what the lady submitted. Yes, talk to your kids, have those appropriate age conversations with them. Don't be speaking to your 5-year-old about sex. It doesn't add up. But you know, you can talk to them about the normal things they can, you know, deal with in their innocence. But yeah, guys, in the interest of time, let me give you a few tips or a few lessons all parents can learn from you know, dealing with their children. Number 1, live life happily. Yes, children live their lives thoroughly, so do not carry the bad memories from one day on to the next. So if something bad happens, just like a child, forget it, move on, and start your day on a good note. Then the other bit is, you know, to be happy as well. You know, children teach us to be carefree and to be happy. And you know, as adults, there's a way we keep chasing happiness. We keep chasing happiness and forget that, you know, what we want from life is right in front of us. So maybe we can actually live in the moment, and then, you know, we'll be happy and we can emulate what kids do. Number 3, express yourself. Just like kids don't suppress their feelings, I hope you're also able to express yourself as an individual. Be fearless as well. You know, we are always haunted by so many different fears as, you know, adults. We fear rejection, we fear this and that. But maybe your fear of being judged is what is holding you back. So, you know, express yourself and be fearless. Number 5, explore the world. It's very normal, you know, that you would constantly be kept busy. But please, that desire to, you know, explore the world and to be curious about this and that is actually going to help you be a better person in life. Then also, kids know no hatred. So as individuals, I hope we can learn from kids, since children, you know, perceive everyone around them to be special, and they actually don't know hatred. You've seen those videos of, you know, a young black baby and a white black, a white baby, yes, and how they, embraced each other in that video.
Regardless of the color.
Regardless of their skin color. And these are things that they are taught later on in life. So, be like kids and no hatred. Number 2, no worries about tomorrow. Live in the present. Honesty as well. We all know how kids are downright honest. So honesty is another virtue that you can pick from kids as well. And also, be optimistic enough. See the bright side in anything. Children live happily because they always see the bright side of everything around them. So, be optimistic by nature. Then lastly, I would have to say, like, don't be ashamed of mistakes. Yes, most of the mistakes are made unknowingly and unintentionally, but we cannot be ashamed of repeating it the second time. So learn from the mistakes and never be frustrated. Yes, so also, shun the feeling of how people feel about you, judging you and all that. Put it at the back of your mind. Well, that's all I had for you this morning on Our Views. We've been discussing childhood innocence. Let us know what you think on our social media platforms. That is Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at CTV Uganda. My name is Priva Elibas. Good morning.
Well, we've had great conversations on Sunrise at Sea this morning. Earlier, we're talking about the Ebola surge. And yes, keep on your toes and be as vigilant as you can so that you can protect yourself and your loved ones. And we winded up the show with a conversation on childhood innocence. One thing that I would say is, especially people who studied literature, Lord of the Flies, losing of innocence is very inevitable. So as you grow up in life, you'll eventually lose your innocence. So for parents out there, you can be sure, protect your children from knowing some of the hard facts about life, like death, and when your children are still young, but do not keep them in a bubble. Do not desist from giving them all the information that they need to be able to navigate through this life. Life can be difficult, especially if your children lose you at a very tender age. So yes, be able to do that for your kids. Well, I wish you a great Monday. It's a beautiful and bright Monday morning, the 26th of September 2022. Have a good one.